The Boston Celtics are your 2024 NBA champions. They win the NBA Finals in 5 games over the Dallas Mavericks. And once I saw the NBA Finals matchup, that matchup being Mavericks versus Celtics, it was pretty easy for me to pick the Boston Celtics to win this NBA Finals just because, look, I understand that, Luka Doncic is on pace to be an all-time great player. I understand Kyrie Irving is one of the best point guards in the NBA still to this day. I understand Jason Kidd, is a really, really good head coach. I think that he's probably in the category for most underrated head coach in the NBA right now. But when you look at Boston, over the last 8 years, they've been to 6 conference finals and 1 NBA Finals appearance heading into this, and now this was their second NBA Finals appearance. But this was a core that was put together a while back, kind of, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, things of that nature, and they've been knocking on the door for quite a while, and I just kind of felt like Boston was one of the few teams that really could force Luka Doncic to hustle on both ends of the court, like they were going to force him to make tough shots on offense, and they were going to expose him probably on defense, and that's exactly what happened. And right now, the Boston Celtics have the most NBA championships for the time being. The Boston Celtics are back to being the number one brand in all of basketball. The number one basketball brand right now is the Boston Celtics. Most championships ever up to this point in NBA history. They nailed the general manager. Joe Mazzulla seems to be a really good young head coach that they believe in. I think he's going to stick around for a long, long time. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have an argument for potentially best duo in the entire NBA. You look at the scouting department, the fact that Boston is aggressive in terms of making trades, acquiring guys like Drew Holiday, acquiring guys like Kristaps Porzingis. This is the number one basketball brand in America, in the world, quite frankly, I would say. The culture is set in Boston. Tough, hard-nosed team. They're good. They're not afraid to shoot threes. They're not all that flashy, but they get the job done. And I think Boston is the number one brand right now. Like I said, a lot of people consider the Lakers. The Lakers have been kind of on and off in terms of championship success and deep postseason runs over the past, I would say, 8 years. Meanwhile, Boston, even though both of them have only won one championship in the last 8 years or so, Boston's been making more deep postseason runs compared to the Lakers. And Boston set the precedent I shouldn't say the precedent, but they set an example of, okay, even when our potential superstar level player, Jason Tatum, is struggling, we can still win basketball games. And there's a lot of commentary about Jason Tatum. I'll just say right here, right now, he is much more closer to being looked at as a Clyde Drexler type player compared to a Julius Erving type player in terms of the projection of his legacy. Like if I were to say, oh, Jason Tatum, where's he going to rank all time? He'll be much more closer to the Clyde Drexlers of the world compared to the Julius Ervings of the world. But that's a good thing for Boston to a degree. And let me explain, because Tatum probably is never going to quite be the best player in the world. So you think, oh man, our number one superstar guy, the guy that we've marketed, he can never be the best player in the world. Are we screwed? Are we never going to win a championship? No, that's not the case. Boston, at times, even won in spite of Jason Tatum's bad shooting slump. So it gives a lot of other teams hope that, hey, even if our number one guy isn't a generational talent, isn't a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant or a Stephen Curry, we can still win. That's the whole point I'm making. And a lot of people made out the fact that, oh, Boston, easy road to the finals. First of all, people, in the regular season, you play to get the highest seed possible. You want to know why? Because when you get the highest seed possible, more than likely, the matchups are more favorable in the playoffs. It's a lot easier, I would say 8 to 9 times out of 10, being a 1 seed versus being a 6 seed, because you get the more favorable matchups. In Boston, all regular season, they worked their tails off, and they earned the best record in basketball. And let's be real, people. Everyone said, oh, Miami had injuries, Cleveland had injuries, Indiana had injuries. I understand the thought process of, okay, if all those teams were fully healthy, they would have put up a better fight versus Boston. I'll give you that. And maybe Boston is a little bit more worn out once they get to the NBA Finals. That's a fair critique. But let's be real, people. Was the Miami Heat, the Cleveland Cavaliers, or the Indiana Pacers, do you really believe they were going to beat this Boston Celtics team 4 times in a best-of-7 series, even with the healthy squad? I personally did not see that happening. Now, if Boston were to face a team like Minnesota or Denver in the NBA Finals, I probably would have picked against them, but they didn't face those teams. They got the luck of the draw. Dallas kind of overachieved a little bit. Luka Doncic playing out of his mind, kind of, got this team a little bit ahead of schedule in terms of the trajectory of their team, but that's not Boston's problem. Boston did exactly what they needed to do. They crushed the competition on their way to winning their NBA championship. The 2024 champions are the Boston Celtics. Most championships in NBA history for the time being. As I mentioned, congratulations, Boston. And by the way, they were a joy to watch. And I think that they're going to be a joy to watch for many years to come, as long as Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, the Joel Mazzuls of the world, as long as they stick around, Boston will be around for a long time. Congratulations, Boston. NBA champions, back on top. #1 brand in basketball right now in the world.